I'm Brittany, this is Moran, and welcome to Gaywatch, where we watch and read gay things. Today, we continue reading Volume 11 of Erha, also known as the Bonus Stories. And here's how it works. We read for a couple of hours, we take a break around halfway through, and we usually get it through around 40 to 50 pages. Before I get to the rest of the announcements, though, I have a little, let's see. Actually, hello, I've already spoken incorrectly. Before I get to the rest of the details, I have an announcement. There we are. We are coming in on the last streams of Erha. They are dwindling. They are disappearing before our very eyes. And I have been reading this series for 2 years now on the stream. It's taken 2 years to get through all these 11 volumes. And so, of course, we're going to have a party about it after we finish volume 11, which will be on a Tuesday. That Thursday, instead of a reading stream, obviously, it is going to be a send-off party for Erha. It's going to be a book chat, but public. There are book chats on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where patrons and YouTube members, we get together and we chat about what we read in the previous stream. On Thursday, it's going to be longer and it's going to be public and it's going to be one big party where we can all come together and rehash the good times and all of the bad times. And I'm going to read as many of the best of Meat Bun's author notes throughout the web version of Erha. I'm going to read as many of those as I possibly can. It's Meat Bun, so there's a lot. And it's just going to be good times. I'm going to do a little bit of like a flash giveaway because I'm almost certain I have either not another copy of Erha Volume 11. I think it's a copy of 9. I know I have an extra copy of an Erha volume kicking around somewhere. But then I also have, like, someone was nice enough to send me like an entire series in addition to, I think it was Thousand Autumns, in addition to the couple of volumes of Thousand Autumns that I needed. So, like, we'll be doing a bit of a big flash giveaway. We're going to be talking. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm probably going to cry. And I'm also going to try to scrape my psyche up off the floor and off of the walls in order to maybe give some final thoughts on Erha. And that's the vibe. A party where we get to laugh, cry, and talk about like really super gay things, sometimes tragic, sometimes sitcom. So that will be the Thursday after we finish. We're finishing on a Tuesday. Could I pull the date off the top of my head? Absolutely. Were I not someone who has ADHD. But obviously this is not the last time I'm going to be talking about it. I'm going to be bringing it up again. There's going to be an announcement post for YouTube and everything. So you will not miss when it happens. Trust me. If you're looking for more queer bookish chats, there is an evergreen link to the public version of the Gaywatch Discord down in the description box. And also down in the description box are trigger warnings, should you need them. And we were on page 113 for chapter 11. I'm pretty sure we're going for chapters 11 through 14 today. And previously, Mei Han Shui has arrived in a real package that, it's Meat Bun, so I'd be shocked if we didn't open the package a little bit. Just a little bit, at least. So far as Shui Meng was concerned, literally, okay, with this entire bonus story, it's really one of those times where, like, I really hope that at the very least, what I am experiencing right now in front of you all is relatable because God knows it's not going to be insightful. Because this woman is relentless. She will not let me gather myself or stop or think or anything like that. I get into a mode with reactions in general that's like multiplied times 10 with meat bun, in which no thoughts, head empty, only the experience of what she's doing to me. As far as Shui Meng was concerned, he had no need of female companionship. But he also thought everything Miss S said was the perfect truth. How could he find fault with a woman with such a discerning eye? Only a boor would strike someone smiling so pleasantly at them, and this young lady was not only smiling, but genuine and demure. Shui Meng couldn't bring himself to send her away, so he had no choice but to let her stay at Xisheng Peak and allow her to represent by word and deed the utmost sincerity of Ma Zhuangju's apology to Shui Zhongmen. I, like a fool, thought we would zero in on just this encounter. I did not think this would be a prolonged situation. A few days passed in this manner. Miss S remained exceedingly tactful. She never put herself in Shui Meng's line of sight without his express permission. Rather, she passed her time ably and quietly helping out around the sect. And Xisheng Peak did need a lot of helping hands. After the last great battle, the sect's fame had skyrocketed, yet they had still retained a penchant for taking on missions like helping old Grandma Wang's cat down from a tree. In Shui Meng's youth, it had been Shimei who'd handled trifles like this, or sometimes Mo Run if he was free. Once Shui Meng had taken up the sect leader's mantle, however, he'd wanted all his disciples to truly understand that kindness had no hierarchy. He asked all 20 elders of Xisheng Peak to take turns assigning these minor tasks to their disciples. This month, it happened to be Tanlong's turn. The Tanlong elder had the fewest disciples in the sect aside from Chu Wanning, and he seemed to select his disciples in his own bizarre image, so every one of his students was as persnickety as he. Tromping down the mountain to help Grandma Wang and her cat was by no means their preferred work, but it wasn't as if they could refuse the sect leader's orders. Usually, they'd pick one of Xuanji's weaker disciples and bully or bribe them into handling those trifling appointments on their behalf. Xuanji, mild as he was, had given Tanlong an earful about the matter more than once. You know what this reminds me of? I'm a big fan of The West Wing, specifically the first 4 seasons, but I'm a big fan of The West Wing. And not that I expect, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, you get huge points for me. But anyway, there's a whole thing in The West Wing that's called Big Block of Cheese Day. And it basically amounts to everyone in the senior staff has to take meetings with some of the crackpots who have like the wilder ideas or wilder requests for the government. And they have to sit down and they have to lend them the ear of the White House. And it's all because of this whole story with a big block of cheese, and we don't need to get into it. But this is so reminiscent of that. And it so speaks to the same ideal. And as a West Wing bitch, I greatly appreciate this. Maddie knows what I'm talking about. Maddie wins the stream. She is today's stream winner. But now that Miss S was here, everything changed. Somehow she charmed Tanlong's disciples into action with hardly more than a few words. They not only willingly went down the mountain to help, but were suddenly terribly happy to do so. He's that bitch. I don't. And she didn't stop there. Miss S could be found at various times helping the ladies at Mungpo Hall with the cooking, cleaning the stone lions at Naiha Bridge, organizing the records in the library. She was happy to do anything at all, and whatever she did well. Anything that breathed, from the sect's own elders to Mungpo Hall's dog and Madame Wong's cat, had only one thing to say about her. Amazing. Miss S embodied the wisdom and maturity any sex dashija should possess. Not only does that, so in addition to thinking that it was just going to be like this one evening where feminine Mei Han Shui shows up on Shui Meng's doorstep and like things happen, the fact that it is now over a prolonged period of time, bad enough to the psyche. But then that also says even more about Mei Han Shui's investment in this. Because he didn't just tell the chick, oh, no, I got this, it's fine, with the intention of like one night. No, this is an extended, dedicated, premeditated con with deeply not heterosexual motivations. Oh, Maddie said this is an audition. Ma'am, you already won the stream. Whew. By the third day, Shui Meng couldn't take it anymore. This woman was incredibly competent. In fact, he could learn a thing or two from her with respect to managing the sect, but he was far too proud to discuss such things with a girl who wasn't even from his sect. As he sat in the garden, lost in these thoughts, he caught a snatch of conversation from the cultivators walking through the open-air corridors. Miss S is a real stunner, said one disciple. How long do you think she's staying at Xisheng Peak? If she's going to be here for a few months, I'll take my shot. The other disciple rolled her eyes. You're a frog, she's a swan. Anyway, can't you tell Miss S has a thing for our sect leader? Shui Meng, startled. As the disciples turned the corner, he swiftly raised the sword manual he was holding to cover his face, though his ears were pricked and listening. Huh? Really? Are you dumb? Listen to her sometime when she talks to other people. Doesn't she always make it about Shui Zhongmen? I don't think she's just here to help the sect. She's got 2 other missions. What missions? The disciples started counting on her fingers. Number 1, praise Shui Zhongmen. Number 2, learn about Shui Zhongmen. Her praise is totally baseless, obviously. She says he's more handsome than Mo Zongxia, smarter than Ma Zhuangzhu, more likely to get rich than Jiang Yuchen, and kinder than even Chu Zongxia. Most importantly, he says his height and build are exceptional. Say, do you think she might be blind? Wow. This chick is savage. Or potentially Shui Meng's looks and charms are lost on her for other reasons. Shui Meng was incensed. She's telling the absolute truth. You're the one who's blind. And she asks about everything, from the sect leader's favorite foods to his current mood. Yesterday, I saw her asking what the sect leader thinks. Yesterday, I saw her asking what the sect leader thinks of Mei Han Shui. Huh? Why would she care about that? Because Meida Shishang's his childhood friend, of course. Everyone knows the way to a man's heart is through his friends. I think Miss S is serious about him, so you'd better give up. Competing with the sect lead. She's. Meatbun's doing that thing to my brain again. Competing with the sect leader. You think you have a chance? You'd have a better chance competing for the sect leader. But even then. Still chattering, the two wandered into the distance, leaving Shui Meng with his feet rooted to the ground, slowly lowering the sword manual from his face. Although Miss S wasn't as good-looking as he was, she was still an extraordinary girl in many ways. And if she'd been praising him that much... Asking her to dinner and spending some time talking to her about how to manage a sect probably wouldn't be too embarrassing, right? After all, she did have very good taste. Seeing his resolve, stealing his resolve, Jesus, Shui Meng asked around and learned Miss S was currently in the library. He fixed his clothes and cleared his throat, then headed over. That's a scene break. I just now realized the purpose of specifically having Shui Meng be holding a sword manual in front of his face. One second. Let me, well, one, catch my breath, because dear God, but two, let me put this up a bit so that I don't feel like I'm hunching that bad. Okay. Better. All right. At that very moment, inside the library, Miss S of Taobao Estate, Bu Shengqi's lifesaver and master of disguise, Mr. Mileage May Vary, who was actually the #1 philanderer of the cultivation world and Dashishang of Kunlun Tashui Palace, Mei Hanshui, was engrossed in a book entitled Ancient Barrier Formations. This particular volume had once sat in Chu Waning's Red Lotus Pavilion. After Chu Waning had gone into seclusion on Nanping Mountain, he'd asked Shui Meng to move his books into the library so all the disciples could access them. Alongside Ancient Barrier Formations was Herbal Compendium, Sichuan Travelogue, and Qin scores of Rufang's sect and Linyi, among others. As a music cultivator, Mei Hanshui wasn't all that interested in barrier techniques. He should have been reading the book on Rufang's sect's Qin music, yet he had his nose buried in this esoteric tome instead. From time to time, he stroked his chin and nodded, smiling, as if in deep appreciation. But of course, it was no surprise that he appreciated it. That copy of Ancient Barrier Formations contained a sprawling collection of erotic illustrations. The Wei Wuxian of it all. Mei Hanshui was a clever man. After quickly realizing these paintings could have nothing to do with Chu Wanning, another few moments of thought led him to the correct answer. These scintillating portraits must surely have been inscribed by Mo Run's youthful pen. They were nothing short of exhilarating. The scenes they depicted impossibly imaginative. Mo Run, it appeared, had been a very inventive young man. With all of Mei Hanshui's experience in the field of love, regular erotica no longer piqued his interest. Mr. Mo Weiyu's adolescent works, however, shook him to the core. What was even more astounding was the fact that this man had drawn such filth all over Chu Waning's books and still drew breath. A rare specimen indeed. As he flipped the pages, Mei Hanshui couldn't help but burst out laughing. Mo Weiyu was one fascinating character, and Shui Meng, having spent so many years at his side yet managing to stay so pure, was even more so. Being interesting was one of the most essential requirements for capturing Mei Hunshui's attention. And from the moment he'd met Shui Meng, he'd found him incomparably fascinating. I just realized what's happening. I'm so sorry. We're in Mei Hunshui's point of view. We've just learned several things about Mei Hunshui, and now we've learned that he's found him. And like this like technically, I'm shorting out. Technically, we could tell this just from their interactions on the page throughout the story. We could obviously tell this. Getting like the download on how Mei Hunshui has seen Shui Meng all this time. That is what I am reading right now. That is what I am about to read to you. That it's the ships that you aren't certain are going to bloom that, paradoxically, I talked about this in the previous stream. To Mei Hunshui, Shui Meng was too impulsive, too naive, and too often forgetful. He was like a pufferfish. If Mei Hunshui patted the little creature from where he sat on the shore, it'd instantly puff up in rage, but soon it would foolishly forget the whole thing and go back to swishing through the water. There has to be fan art of Puffer Shui Meng, right? There's got to be. Come on. It has to be somewhere. I need to see it. And Mei Hunshui was like a curious cat. He couldn't resist batting at the little fish whenever he got the chance, then swiping at him the next time, too. The more puffed up Shui Meng was, the happier Mei Hunshui became. It's only one of my favorite shipping dynamics of all time. It's only that. Once, when Shui Meng had truly reached the end of his patience, he'd asked, "Honestly, Mei Hunshui, do you have a grudge against me in particular?" "You're the son of my benefactor," thought Mei Hunshui. "Of course not. But there's a certain incident I'm sure you've forgotten." In fact, when they'd first met as children, Shui Meng had done something impossibly dickish. This is a beautiful volume. This is a stunning volume gifted to me by Ninan. It's glorious. It's the deluxe edition. I can't beat the shit out of it, but I deeply fucking want to. In fact, when they'd first met as children, Shui Meng had done something impossibly dickish. He'd bullied Mei Hunshui into dressing like a girl. At the time, Mei Hunshui had still been a round-cheeked and stubby-legged little kid who had come to see Shang Peak with his shizun, Ming Yulo. It had been the depths of winter, and he'd gone everywhere in a white fur hat and thick coat. The hat had been slightly too big and was always sliding down, covering not just his golden hair, but his jade-green eyes. The young Shui Meng thus hadn't immediately noticed a foreign-looking little disciple in the group's midst. It had been Mei Hunshui's first time visiting a different sect. He was young and new to everything. Worried he'd be made fun of for his Suyab accent, he'd kept as quiet as he could, standing in the corner with his pale gold lashes lowered, a far cry from the magnetic presence he would become in the future. How, then, had this grudge formed? The blame lay squarely on the thick mist shrouding Xishang Peak's melodic springs. Hot springs were everywhere in the mountains around Kunlun Tashui Palace. The sex disciples were used to bathing in them, not in wooden tubs, and Mei Hunshui was no different. That night he planned to visit the melodic springs for a bath with Mei Hunshui, who'd taken on the appearance of a boy from the Central Plains. But at the last minute, Mei Hunshui had disappeared, leaving Mei Hunshui to bathe alone. You can feel her enjoyment whenever she has to put their names in the same sentence. He stripped off his outer robe, leaving only his snow silk underclothes. Mei Hunshui didn't know where he should put the... Sorry, every now and then I realize what's happening and my brain backs up on me. Mei Hunshui didn't know where he should put his discarded clothes, so he stacked them on his head and walked over petal-strewn pebbles toward the water. As he drew close, a piping yet resonant voice reached his ears. "You should spend some more time in the sun, Shimei. Look how small you are, how pale your skin is. Then look at me. Don't I look more manly? You look like a girl. I'm scared you'll grow up to look like that guy Uncle Wu, the one who sells meat pastries down in Wuchang Town. He's not even as tall as his wife." There came a softer reply. "Shasu, of course you look the best. How could I compare myself to you?" Mei Hunshui hadn't been completely fluent in Chinese at that time. If he'd known Xiaozhu meant young master, he'd have understood that this boy was the son of his benefactors. Unfortunately, he instead drew the conclusion that the boy's name was Xiaozhu. Shui Meng couldn't have been more pleased at the compliment. "Shimei," he said encouragingly, "I love your honesty. I'm sure you'll grow big and tall too. Just do as I do. When I go in the sun, you should come with me, and when I drink milk, you'll drink too. Don't lose hope." Oh. The toxic masculinity's really been building up in Shui Meng for a very long time. But I'm worried that what's there to worry about? It'll happen when it happens. And if you do end up as short as Uncle Wu in the worst case, I'll protect you. Just hide behind me in a fight, okay? Shimei couldn't stop laughing. "Then I'll thank you in advance, Xiaozhu." No need to be so polite. We're sex siblings after all. As Mei Hunshui crept closer, his vision cleared. 2 kids around his own age were soaking in the flower-filled hot springs. One was slender and beautiful, his skin as fair as pear blossom petals, while the other stood with his back toward him. Mei Hunshui couldn't see his face, but he found to his consternation that even in the bath, this young lad was wearing a shiny silver Xishang Peak hair crown, fastened with a jade pin. Had he forgotten to take it off, or had he kept it on purposely? Was everyone from Sichuan this weird? Before he could finish the thought, Shimei's vigilant eyes fell upon him. At the sight of an unfamiliar face, he said, "Xiaozhu, is this?" The other boy turned. Mei Hunshui's and Shui Meng's eyes met for the first time. Their encounter was truly an accident of fate. The mist rising from melodic springs thickened just as Shui Meng turned around. Mei Hunshui got a good look at his face, but Shui Meng wasn't so fortunate. All he saw was fair skin, large eyes, and fine features, like those of a little girl. It just so happened that this was right around the time several female disciples had been caught spying on Chu Wanning in the bath, and the incidents were the first thing that popped into Shui Meng's head. With a yelp, he raised his voice and shouted, "Come now, this is ridiculous again! Get the pervert right now!" Even as he was tackled to the ground and dragged out of the hot springs, Mei Hunshui still didn't understand. Huh? What made him a pervert? In Sichuan, was it inappropriate for boys to bathe with boys they didn't know? It's the end of the chapter. We're on page 121 for chapter 12 of Shui Meng's Blind Date Adventures. Can you believe this started all the way back with blind dates? Oh, man. Oh, a case of mistaken gender identity. Okay. The incident had been pure chaos, and it happened so long ago even Mei Hunshui didn't remember all the details clearly. In short, his unfamiliarity with the language and stuttering speech meant he hadn't been able to explain himself, and everyone thought he was a little pervert trying to sneak a peek at the young master in the bath. The Sishung Peak disciples who'd caught him, brimming with righteous fire, had tossed him into Yanlo Hall to reflect on his behavior. In the mess, Mei Hunshui's own clothes had been lost in Melodic Springs and were nowhere to be found. With his golden hair loose around his shoulders and his green eyes wide with exasperation, he stood inside the reflection hall and stared at the words, "A loyal heart remains constant," inscribed on the mounted plaque, completely flummoxed as to what he'd done wrong. After a while, one of Sishung Peak's senior disciples brought him new clothes, supposedly from Xiaozhu. With them came a book. Mei Hunshui unfolded the garments and discovered they were a set of female disciples' robes. To add insult to injury, the book was a copy of Maidenly Virtues. He fell silent. Mei Hunshui was truly a patient boy, very slow to anger. At this point, however, he'd had enough. He knew that Suyab, Tashui Palace, and Sichuan all had their own customs. For example, he abhorred pork, but before they'd left, his shizun Ming Yulo had warned them that people came in all kinds, and one man's trash might be another's treasure. Since he'd arrived, Mei Hunshui had paid a great deal of attention to the habits of people from Sichuan, and he would never tell a person from the Central Plains happily munching on roast pig trotter that it was disgusting. Even if he was privately grossed out, he'd politely pass the salt and pepper, then go home and wash his hands 100 times. Learning about the soft underbelly of Mei Hunshui. But this mysterious Xiaozhu was a little tyrant. Never mind welcoming a guest with pleasure, he'd given him girls' clothes and a copy of Maidenly Virtues to humiliate him on purpose. Hadn't he just gone to the wrong bathing spot? Couldn't they talk it out? Did he have to handle things so cruelly? The foreigner Mei Hunshui, on his first time out in the world, had no clue where he'd gone wrong, nor had he the patience to figure it out. It was bitterly cold in the hall, and all he had on was a thin inner robe splattered in mud. Despite the humiliation, he had too much sense not to drape Xiaozhu's gifted robes around his shoulders and tie up his damp golden tresses, leaving a few errant locks loose around his pale cheeks. As for the book, he reduced it to ash. When the fire flickered to life, Mei Hunshui thought to himself with no small vindictiveness that he'd surely remember this humiliation, and if he got his hands on Xiaozhu, he'd definitely wring the kid's neck. A new awkwardness came the morning after. Ming Yulo had instructed him and his older brother Mei Hunshui to take turns with their true faces. After hearing what had happened, Mei Hunshui had gone to Yanlo Hall in search of him. He found his little brother sitting in the corner like a disheveled little girl, clothes haphazardly put on and face gloomy with suffering. "What kind of get-up is this?" "Gah," said Mei Hunshui. "It's your get-up for the day." His brother stared at him. "Here, I've enjoyed it all night. The clothes smell pretty good. Your turn." "Mei Hunshui," snapped his brother. "What kind of trouble have you gotten me into this time?" Sometimes Mei Hunshui did feel bad for his brother. Perhaps Mei Hunshui's luck was not very good. Every time Mei Hunshui stumbled into some kind of mishap, it was always Mei Hunshui who had to deal with the fallout. Today was no different. Although Mei Hunshui had suffered having to sit next to a fire all night in Yanlo Hall dressed in girls' clothes, the horrors Xiaozhu was about to put his brother through were much worse. The overseers of Yanlo Hall had scheduled him for a full day of cleaning in the library. When Mei Hunshui put on the blue and silver girl's uniform, Mei Hunshui could tell he was on the verge of going insane. Mei Hunshui promised himself once again, if he got his hands on Xiaozhu, he'd kill the little brat. After hearing the whole story, his older brother helpfully removed the word "if." "Wait for me," hissed Mei Hunshui. "We'll kill him as soon as I'm done with the books." With that, he toddled off to the library. Another scene break. This is why they've been hovering around Shuimeng. Or at least, this was the start This was what led them there. What got them there. Did I say that was a scene break? I am far too happy to remember. That was a scene break. A few brash and arrogant Xishiang of Kunlun Tashway Palace had come to Xishiang Peak with Ming Yulo. All of them despised Mei Hanshui for the clear favoritism the sect leader showed him, and the worst of the lot was delighted to hear Mei Shidi had been punished by Xishiang Peak. He scuttled off to the library the moment he heard what had happened. As soon as he caught sight of Mei Shidi perched atop a wooden ladder, dressed in girl's clothes and wiping off books with a shuttered expression, he burst out laughing and summoned his little gang to watch the show. Mei Shidi, Mei Shimei, you sure look pretty today. What did you do to the Xishiang Peak people for them to dress you so nicely? Quick, tell me who it was. A fit of snorted laughter. Shige will go give them flowers right now. Mei Hanshui was aloof and spoke little. Annoyed, he didn't bother refuting them. Instead, he whirled around and attacked. But he was too young and too unskilled and outnumbered to boot. Mei Hanshui ended up pinned to the ground by the insufferable pests he called his sect siblings. What's your problem? You're all sweet and cheerful one day and start punching people the next. Xishiang can help fix that for you. Get him out of those robes. He's from Tashway Palace. Why the hell is he... We're breathing. Why the hell is he in Xishiang Peak's uniform? The shrill sound of a blade unsheathing cut through the tussle. A glinting scimitar flew past their noses and buried itself in the wooden floorboards. Shocked, the Kunlun Tashway goblins scattered like birds. Shui Meng, one of them gasped. The boy who stood with his arms crossed at the library doors had a handsome face and an arrogant set to his chin. He was dressed in a full complement of Xishiang Peak's blue and silver armor, with his hair pulled into a high ponytail, impatiently tapping his black-gloved fingers against his arms. Bullying people at Xishiang Peak? Do you have my dad's permission? Mine? My Shizun's? No one dared answer. Get the hell out. Those Xishiang only picked on kids weaker than themselves. If nothing else, Shui Meng was the son of the sect leader. None of them had the courage to oppose him. They ran off like rats, bowing and scraping. Stony-faced, Shui Meng stepped forward, steel-toed boots clicking against the floorboards. He took hold of Longcheng's hilt and tugged, planning to yank it out in one smooth, cool move, but it didn't budge. Mei Hanshui blinked. So did Shui Meng. Clearing his throat, Shui Meng wrapped both his hands more firmly around the hilt. Only then did he manage to extract the scimitar, which rivaled his small body in height. He turned to Mei Hanshui, still sitting on the ground, but failed to recognize him as the pervert from Melodic Springs. And of course, Mei Hanshui didn't recognize him either. They stared at each other for a moment in silence. We've emphasized the initial stares of both brothers. Okay. Interesting. Shui Meng noted the boy's messy golden hair, bloodied lip, and the total destruction of his clothes, leaving him in only a single Kunlun Tashway snow silk undergarment. He scratched his head, bewildered. Little bro, you were fighting with your own sect? That's not right. He whipped off his own outer robe, hem fluttering, and wrapped it around Mei Hanshui. Mei Hanshui looked up at him. The little boy didn't look much like his benefactor, Shui Jingyang. His features were delicate, his small nose turned up and his almond eyes sparkling. An innate sense of superiority radiated from him. We'll get there in a second. Hold, please. Mei Hanshui was a bit confused. You're Shui Meng? Yep, said Shui Meng, smug. What did you think? Wasn't that impressive? Were you thinking the rumors don't do me justice? So this was his benefactor's son. Mei Hanshui was about to stand. was about to stand up and thank him when Shui Meng burst out laughing and bragged, "Your Xiaozhu has never lost a fight." There was a moment of silence. "Your Xiaozhu?" Shui Meng looked at him. "Huh? Who else would I be?" That's a scene break. I'm not entirely sure that the art on this page has been mentioned yet on the other page, so I'm going to keep going. But I've got to tell you, I'm fucking dying. Anyway. Xiaozhu isn't someone's name? Asked Mei Shui in surprise later that night. Since when was he our benefactor's son? Mei Shui was more mature than his brother. He dug out the Suyab Kunlun Chinese dictionary from their packs, and they huddled together, studying it by candlelight. Now we can show the art. And this is particularly funny given that I mentioned in the book chat today that there should be Chibi Erha. This is much closer than anyone could have predicted we would get. I'm dying. I'm fucking beside myself. Let me get my face out of the way. Xiaozhu, read Mei Shui, meaning young master. When an adult is the present master, it refers to the young person selected or predetermined, depending on the country or the clan involved, to be their heir. Mei Shui and Mei Shui were both rendered speechless. After a long moment, Mei Shui asked the question they were both thinking. Are we still going to kill him? His elder brother thought it over for a long moment. He glanced at the robe still draped around his shoulders, then lowered those pale gold lashes. What do you think? He asked coldly. Mei Shui nodded, his jade green eyes shining like an exotic cat's. Okay, I'll play with him. I won't beat his ass. Mei Shui said nothing. But I can tease him a little bit, can't I? You saw what he did to me yesterday. Mei Shui thought it over and spoke 3 words of warning. Don't overdo it. That's a scene break. I suppose it depends on what your definition of overdoing it is. Is ruthlessly ribbing Shui Meng every time you see him far into adulthood too much? Is that overdoing it? Who can say? After this incident, Mei Shui played with Shui Meng often. Slowly, the two became friends. Mei Shui thought Shui Meng was an idiot. He and his brother were obviously taking turns playing with him, but Shui Meng never thought anything of it beyond declaring his moods erratic. Instead, it was the little shitty named Shui Ya who often dogged Shui Meng's heels, who seemed to notice something. Mei Shui caught the boy watching him thoughtfully more than once. Mei Shui didn't like clever observers like Shui Ya. People like Shui Meng, who swaggered around as bold as a crab but had very little going on upstairs, suited him much better. Teasing him was loads of fun. The only problem was, you're not sleeping with me tonight. Huh? Mei Shui was dressed in his snow silk pajamas, clutching his bamboo pillow with his golden locks flowing loose around his shoulders and his seawater eyes wide and guileless. Why? Shui Meng was spitting mad. Because you kicked me out of bed in the middle of the night yesterday. Did you forget? Mei Shui pressed his lips shut. Didn't his brother say he wouldn't bully Shui Meng? What was he doing, kicking him out of bed? But a moment later, he grinned. Mei Shui hadn't hit his growth spurt yet. He didn't boast the dazzling good looks he would later possess, but the brilliance of that smile already hinted at the future Mei Gongzhe's charm. I swear I won't do it tonight. I'll sleep on the outer edge of the bed, and if you're still worried, I'll sleep with you in my arms. That's the cutest Shit! I'm angry. Hey, this next sentence is in italics. In his arms, the mental image stopped Shuai-Meng in his tracks. He tossed a tiger-shaped pillow at him. What's wrong with you, Kunlun people? Get the hell out! Well, I hope that doesn't awaken anything in anyone. The memory of it still made Mei Honshui laugh. As he chuckled with a hand to his mouth, the door creaked open. He looked up and saw Shuai-Meng silhouetted against the light, brash and arrogant, yet somehow a little awkward as he strode toward him. Hey, you. Mei Honshui wasn't put off by his rudeness. Smiling, he lowered the leg that'd been propped up on the bookshelf and sat up straight. Sect leader. Shuai-Meng cleared his throat, glancing at him. Slowly, his face reddened. The smile froze on Mei Honshui's face. He'd seen his fair share of the world. It wasn't rare for cultivators to flush at the sight of him, male and female alike. He knew better than anyone what that meant. But he'd never thought Shuai-Meng would look at the cross-dressing version of himself that way. The Shui Ziming he knew wasn't that kind of man. He was haughty, straightforward, with beauty in spades, but lacking in brains. He'd never known how to make a girl happy, and his second favorite activity after training was probably preening before his own reflection. Blushing at a girl, what was wrong with him? Even though this girl was himself, dressed this way on a lark, Mei Honshui still felt unsettled. So Mei Honshui, I'm catching up. Give me a second. Mei Honshui hasn't had an eye on Shuai-Meng in that way, to his knowledge. He does not. That's not a prominent conscious thing of his. So he did this on a lark and will therefore tumble into this alongside Shuai-Meng. We're He was suddenly reminded of the snow-white Persian cat he'd once raised at Tashui Palace. He'd raised it from a kitten and thought of it as a cute and dumb little cat that would stay cute and dumb forever. That was until the day he saw his adorable pet mating with a stray. And not just one, at least. That was until the day he saw his adorable pet mating with a stray. And not just one, at least two on top of each other, with a third sitting a little ways off, watching the shocking display. Mei Honshui didn't know if it was getting ready to join in or merely a horrified witness. What have I said about meat bun and dominoes? She likes to set up dominoes. Perhaps the third cat wasn't horrified, but Mei Honshui certainly was. He had no idea where his cute, naive, and silly little kitten had gone. Facing this blushing Shuai-Meng, Mei Honshui felt the exact same way As Shui Meng's expression became more and more pinched, Mei Han Shui could see him biting his lip again and again as he hesitated to speak. He started to wonder how he'd gently yet politely reject sect leader Shui. Should he say Miss S preferred women, or tell him she was terminally ill and would be dead in a few months? Excuses came easily to his lips when rejecting female cultivators. He made them almost as often as he breathed and could spin the wildest stories with the most vivid conviction. Yet now, he was somehow at a loss. Distraught, he heard sect leader Shui finally find his voice. About Mei Han Shui listened, tense. It's been a while since you've come to Xisheng Peak. I had a question for you. Of course, sect leader. Go ahead. Mei Han Shui looked composed, but his mind was reeling. Say he was a lesbian or that he was dying of a terminal disease. Lesbian or dying. I wanted to ask, Gritting his teeth, Shui Meng stamped his foot and made up his mind. Risking his pride, he clenched his fist, raised his voice, and said, "Ha! Will you please tell me how you rub Veggie Bun's belly without getting scratched?" That's the end of the chapter. I'm going to set her on fire. It's exactly 4, which is usually when we take our break. But there's a little bit of a new schedule these days, so we can go to 5:30 if we need to. So our break doesn't have to happen at 4. I'm going to check real quick to see how long this chapter is. Is it like a full 10-page thing? It is. It's a full 10-page chapter. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take our break now. I'm going to get some matches, and I'll be back on page 133 for chapter 13 of Shui Meng's Blind Date Adventures. I shall return momentarily. Like the stream if you're also looking for matches. And we're back. I just want to say that when I made the poll that went into the chat over the break that said dying or lesbian, and the options were dying lesbian or dying lesbian, as I was typing that, and I thought to add just dying lesbian, it was one of those things where like I like snickered to myself and was like, no one else is gonna find that funny, but I made myself laugh. And then it wound up, winning with a whopping 88% of the vote. Thank you for that. I feel very seen. You and I have the same sense of humor. We are on page 133 for chapter 13. Mei Hun Shui looked at Shui Meng, who was as red as a blazing sunset. He couldn't help but raise his brows. Is that all? Shui Meng scratched his head, then remembered something else that had puzzled him. Also, how do you get Tang Lung and Chuanji's disciples to stop fighting? Mei Hun Shui stared. Sorry, apparently he had overestimated Shui Meng. Mei Hun Shui had met thousands upon thousands of people, but Shui Meng had a unique talent. Sect leader Shui obviously remained single through sheer power of will. Regardless, Mei Hun Shui patiently explained to Shui Meng how he'd mediated conflicts between Tanlong and Xuanji's disciples, and also began to instruct Shui Meng in the art of petting cats. The more you indulge a cat, the less seriously he'll take you, Mei Hun Shui said with a smile. Her expression was kind, her voice soft and gentle, yet she retained a vaguely flippant, coquettish air. Sect leader, you mustn't give in just because he's cute. You need to show him who's boss. Even bully him a bit. He needs to know he can't escape. Then this fuzzy little guy will learn to obey. I gotta go. I need to leave. I need to not be here. I need another break. I need another can't do this. Can't do it. What if he wants to run away? Chase him, Mei Hun Shui answered, smiling. What if he doesn't want to play? Restrain him. What if he bites you? Smack him. Shui Meng glanced at Mei Hun Shui's cheerful face. For some reason, the hairs on the back of his neck rose slightly, which could mean nothing. Who can say? Who can say? Who knows? It's a mystery. It's a grand mystery. She's gonna need another 10 volumes just to get to the bottom of why his body would respond in such a way. He swallowed. You haven't been smacking Veggie Bun, have you? Mei Hun Shui snorted with laughter. I'm just teasing you. No, I always let them come to me. I'd never force myself on anyone, even a cat. Shui Meng let out a breath of relief. He had been about to deem this Miss S quite frightening. Mei Hun Shui raised... You think I can read right now? Mei Hun Shui raised pale lashes, revealing those alluring irises, green and depthless. Sect leader, speaking of which, Taobao Estate does have a secret cat petting technique. Would you like to learn? As a martial arts fanatic, Shui Meng was extremely interested in all kinds of so-called secret techniques. Mo Run had once hypothesized that if someone really wanted to convince the pure and artless Shui Ziming to read an erotic book, all they'd have to do was slap on a title like Illustrated Secret Techniques for the Bedroom, 10 Weird Lovemaking Tricks Healers Don't Want You to Know, or Top Secret Skulls of the Red Lotus Pavilion. Actually, regarding this last one, Shui Meng probably wouldn't read it, even if it did have secret in the title. God, who told Meat Bun she's funny? Whoever did that has really cursed us all. Shall I teach you? Mei Hun Shui gave him a patient smile. Normally I wouldn't offer, but I truly admire the sect leader. Shui Meng was unable to resist the dual temptation of the kitty's white belly and a secret technique. Euphemisms? I really don't know what those are. Curiosity piqued, he cautiously took the bait. I see, then sure, tell me more. Okay, listen carefully. First of all, you have to understand feline nature, said Mei Hun Shui, observing Shui Meng intently. As the saying goes, curiosity killed the cat. A cat's biggest weakness is the fact that he always wants to know more without being mindful of the danger. Shui Meng's eyes were wide and eager. Really? Yep. Mei Hun Shui lifted a long, slender finger. You see, if you hold your finger in front of a cat, he'll almost always come over and sniff it. Then, when the cat is close to you, you can grab him, pin him to the ground, lift his legs, and he'll start mewling away. Mei Hun Shui had chosen those suggestive words deliberately, hoping to get a rise out of Shui Meng. In multiple senses, I'm sure. Unfortunately, even the best laid plans often go awry. The profligate Mei Hun Shui had underestimated the extent of Shui Meng's naivete. The implication flew completely over his head. Shui Meng listened with an expression of intense concentration, then leaned forward. But won't that make him mad? Mei Hun Shui hesitated. He'd missed his mark, but he wasn't discouraged. That's right, he said, still smiling. What then? Comfort him. Shui Meng waved a hand. It won't work. He doesn't understand what we're saying. Words are empty. Action is what counts, said Mei Hun Shui. As long as the cat's enjoying himself, he won't resist. He'll look at you with big, soft eyes, and he'll roll around in the most comfortable positions to give you better access. He'll even make happy little noises. Have you ever tried it? Shui Meng stroked his chin contemplatively, like purring. He made a little murp sound in his throat. As Mei Hun Shui gazed at Shui Meng's unsuspecting face, the urge to tease him only grew stronger. He couldn't help but chuckle. Exactly. Cats will purr. But he never lets me touch his belly. I've only ever gotten as far as his chin. That's a matter of skill. You didn't find the right spot to make him feel good. Mei Hun Shui's soft lashes fluttered. After a moment, he said warmly, Sect leader, if you don't mind, may I offer you some hands-on instruction? Are we holding hands? Are we holding hands? We should be holding hands. Dear God, we should have been holding hands for a while now. Come here. Come here. Bring it in. Bring it in. We're holding hands. Oh. Where on what page? I don't even know. Um. No, okay. Though propriety dictated that men and women should keep their distance, teaching was an exception. Shui Meng looked at Miss S. She seemed every bit a demure, gentle, and respectable girl. After a beat, he nodded. Sichuan folk didn't make a fuss over small things like this. Then again, the young lady was from Jiangnan, wasn't she? Just as Mei Hunshui was about to reach over, Shui Meng blurted, "Hold on, I just want to learn how to pet a cat. To be clear, I'm not trying to take advantage of you in any way." Mei Hunshui blinked, then grinned. And I mean absolutely no disrespect towards you, miss. Mei Hunshui's ribs ached from holding in his laughter. Tears gathered at the corners of his eyes, and a snicker finally slipped past his lips. "I understand. I'm a disciple of Taobao Estate. We're a proper sect, you know. We'd never try that kind of scam. A touch or two won't besmirch my honor. Sect leader, why are you so nervous?" Shui Meng awkwardly cleared his throat. "Well, please begin, then." Mei Hunshui stepped aside, making space for Shui Meng to stand next to him. "First, come closer, sect leader." Once Shui Meng was in place, Mei Hunshui raised his hand. "See, when you pet a cat, you have to approach him slowly and wait for him to come over and sniff you first," he said, straight-faced. He reached out until his fingertips hovered just in front of Shui Meng's nose. After a pause, he lowered his hand until it rested on Shui Meng's chin. "Then you can give him a couple of gentle scratches. Start slow." Mei Hunshui knew Shui Meng too well to do anything more than lightly tap him on the chin. He chuckled to himself. I can't believe Shui Meng hasn't hit me yet." Perhaps Mei Hunshui's Miss S act was so prim and proper that Shui Meng didn't harbor even the shadow of a doubt. He touched his own chin a couple of times. "Like this?" "A little harder, ideally." "How about now?" "Not always so hard. As the saying goes, 9 shallow, 1 deep, and they'll never let you leave." "Thank you for holding my hand." "What kind of saying is that? How come I've never heard of it?" Mei Hunshui laughed. "You'd only come across that one in specific types of books." Still somewhat doubtful, Shui Meng scratched his own chin a few more times, testing the amount of force. "And then," he chirped. And then Mei Hunshui let his jade-pale fingertips glide downward. They stopped at Shui Meng's waist, hovering just above the silver lion's head buckle of his belt. "Once the cat feels comfortable, he'll lie down and expose his belly to you. That means he trusts you." "So it's okay to touch it then?" "Not yet," Mei Hunshui said blithely. "You have to do what I'm doing. Hold your hand right above his belly, but don't pet him yet. Like this." He slowly moved his hand at Shui Meng's waist, flitting close then drawing away again. Shuimeng squirmed in place, staring at Mei Hunshui's fingers, not knowing when they would actually touch him. But after a few seconds, as Miss S's hand continued to vacillate in midair, he slowly let down his guard. At that moment, Mei Hunshui grabbed him by the waist and pulled him close. Then, when he least expects it, you have to... He didn't get a chance to finish his sentence. Shuimeng, caught completely by surprise, yelped and stumbled forward. He fell heavily to the ground, bringing Mei Hunshui down with him, and landing squarely on top of the supposed young lady. We have achieved the falling trope, everyone. Mei Hunshui found himself speechless as Shuimeng sputtered and coughed amidst the clouds of dust sent up from the library floor. Shuimeng looked uncannily like the cat he'd pretended to be. His eyes were glazed with confusion, his face blank. He lay there blinking for a long moment before he realized he had Mei Hunshui pinned to the ground, and the aged floorboards of the library were creaking in protest beneath them. Shuimeng looked down at the girl under him, her bright hair puddled around her, robes in disarray. Her pale eyes were half-shaded beneath sweeping lashes. She wore a strange expression, as though she wanted to say something, but stopped herself. Alarm bells blared in Shuimeng's head. He tried to scramble to his feet. Sadly, it was precisely in such urgent situations that people were most likely to make mistakes. Shuimeng was still disoriented, and his knees buckled the first 2 times he tried to get up. Before he managed it, he ended up grinding against Mei Hunshui a few more times. Mei Hunshui's brows rose slightly, the look in his eyes growing even more unreadable. Eventually, and with great difficulty, Shuimeng clambered to his feet. Ears crimson, he stammered, "Daja, I'm really sorry about that." Due to his arrogant personality, Shuimeng had never been close with many women. Girls his age ignored him. It was always older women who were fondest of him. As a result, he'd gotten into the habit of calling women either auntie or je. Now his nerves had gotten the better of him, and he'd blurted Daja to the beautiful young woman that was Mei Hunshui. Mei Hunshui looked up at him, gaze inscrutable. He sighed to himself. It was no wonder Shuimeng had never even held a girl's hand. When it came to the fairer sex, those over 90 could be called granny, and those under 5 could be called sweetie. For everyone in between, beautiful was the best address. How did Shuimeng not understand such a basic thing at almost 30 years of age? Above him, Shuimeng was still stammering away. "Daja, did I hurt you? I'm not that heavy, but you look pretty sturdy." Mei Hunshui blinked. If he'd been a real girl, he would have backhanded Shuimeng solidly across the face by now. Luckily, Shuimeng seemed to realize that using the word sturdy to describe a girl was less than ideal. "That's not what I meant," he said. "I just wanted to say that you don't seem like you'd break so easily. You're pretty tough. I'll stop talking now. Are you okay?" Mei Hunshui finally sat up, expression complicated. "I'm fine. I was just surprised by your reaction." The 2 of them sat in awkward silence. "Did I scare you?" Mei Hunshui asked. Of course not." Shuimeng's face was still beet red. He cast about for something to say. Is that how you tamed Veggiebun, too?" "Yes," Mei Hunshui responded with a smile. "All the creatures I train are very obedient." "Once is an anomaly, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. This is, what, the 2nd time the word or variation of obey has been used. Don't do this to me, meat bun. Oh, sect leader, do you think you got the hang of it? I guess so. Excellent, Mei Hunshui said. As long as you're happy, sect leader, that's what matters. Even a little fall like this is worth it. Shui Meng fell silent. Any man would be pleased to hear such tender words spoken to him by a beautiful girl. He stole a couple more glances at Miss S, rather touched. He maintained his low opinion of Ma Yin and the matching scroll he'd pulled out of his ass, but his smile squad was pretty great. Miss S was easygoing, good-natured, unpretentious, honest, and industrious, completely dedicated to her customers' demands. Shui Meng used to think these delicate girls were like creatures made of glass, fragile and easy to upset, prone to crying and wailing. If a man knocked them over by accident, they'd pout and stamp their feet, sobbing hysterically. How dare you, shameless bastard! But this Miss S was different. She didn't seem to mind getting the short end of the stick if she could change Shui Meng's appraisal of the matching scroll. Of course, Shui Meng hadn't meant to give her the short end of the stick. You know, for the briefest moment, I thought that may have just been a coincidental turn of phrase. But repeated, no. But he had a naturally kind disposition, and felt a twinge of pity for this obedient and hard-working girl. After some hesitation, Shui Meng suggested, "How about this? It's almost dinner time. Why don't I take you out? Think of it as a thank you for teaching me your secret cat petting technique. And about the matching scroll review, it's not like I'm totally unwilling to discuss it. At any rate, let's eat first, then talk." Shui Meng extended a hand to the diligent Miss S, ready to help her to her feet. But Mei Hunshui didn't move. Her eyes flicked from Shui Meng's hand to his face. "Sect leader, please go ahead," he said with a small smile. "I'll rest here for a little longer." All my dreams, all my dreams, all my dreams, all of my dreams are coming true. I give so much, and now I get to receive. Seeing that she didn't move, Shui Meng began to fret. "Are you sure I didn't hurt you just now?" Mei Hunshui raised his brows, then chuckled. "No, you didn't hurt me. There's..." "There's just one spot that's swelled a little. It's okay, though. As long as you don't bump into me again, it'll go down in a bit." I have to leave. I have to fling myself somewhere that is not here. The poor, upstanding Shui Meng was becoming sure he'd really managed to injure her. His guilt compounded. "I see," he bit his bottom lip, embarrassed. "Why don't I get someone to take a look at it?" "No need. I don't like to bother people with things like this." In Shui Meng's eyes, this girl seemed more pitiful and thoughtful than ever. No. Where is it swollen? I have some ointment on me. Should I dab some on for you? Or I can help you rub the sore spot. Do you mind? Mei Han Shui looked at Shui Meng's earnest, serious expression. The longer he looked, the cuter Shui Meng became. Hold, please. Ow! Jesus God! It took everything he had to keep a straight face. He couldn't say a word for fear of bursting into knee-slapping laughter the instant he opened his mouth. Girl, same. Oh God, I didn't even reach for the co-host. Shui Meng saw the girl before him purse her lips, silent and demure as she gazed up at him with sparkling eyes. Her lips pressed together more tightly, and her expression grew increasingly strange. She lowered her head and softly cleared her throat. If you touch it, it'll probably swell up even more. Huh? Shui Meng blinked. It's not like my hands are poisonous. No, that's not it. So what's the problem then? As Mei Han Shui gazed at Shui Meng's innocent expression, the urge to tease him multiplied. Among other things. He seriously wanted to see him run off in terror or scream in anger. His eyes gleamed beguilingly, almost iridescent in the light. He smiled. If you insist, it's not that you can't help. As long as we're on the same page. Let me explain. Two knocks sounded on the library door. I'm going to murder her with my bare hands. Mei Han Shui raised his brows and closed his mouth. Shui Meng turned to see the Xuanji elder standing in the doorway, dressed in blue. His hand was still extended where he'd rapped against the frame. Sect leader, said Xuanji, before catching sight of Mei Han Shui behind Shui Meng. He smiled. Ah, I see Miss S is here too. Oh, I had something I wanted to ask her about. Shui Meng was oblivious to the danger he'd been in just moments ago. What's wrong? He asked, unfazed. Mei Han Shui of Kunlun Tao Shui Palace has come rather suddenly to see Sheng Peak. He said he needs to speak with you on an urgent matter. He's waiting in Loyalty Hall. That's the end of the chapter! I can't. I can't. I can't! No! We're on page 143 for chapter 14. It had been some time since Shui Meng and Mei Han Shui had last met. During the great battle, the secret of the twins' identities had been revealed to everyone. Now the entire cultivation realm knew there were two Mei Shanjiang. Many of the female cultivators who had their hearts broken by the younger twin had turned their attention to the older. Not only was Mei Honshui handsome and dependable, he also had a steady temperament and lacked his twin's shocking body count, making him a perfect alternative to the unattainable Mei Honshui. Mei Honshui, never one for socializing to begin with, was now faced with this brand new headache, and had spent the last 2 years making as few public appearances as possible. The last time Mei Honshui and Shui Meng had crossed paths had been when the older twin had come to deliver a gift from Ming Yulo, a box of rare and wondrous snow lotuses. Coincidentally, when he arrived, the new sect leader of Jiangdong Hall had also been paying Shui Meng a visit. Though Hua Ruo was a sect leader, she was nothing like the upright Yao Wangxi, nor the gentle and virtuous Madame Wang, nor the severe Madame Rong. After Huang Xiaoyue's death, this unorthodox woman had slept her way through the ranks of Jiangdong Hall's elders all the way up to the sect leader position. The rumors of her having bedded all 12 of Jiangdong Hall's elders were well known to just about everyone except the elders themselves. Even so, if any hint of these rumors were to make their way to these old turtles, all it would take was for Hua Ruo to come crying, and these men would jump to her defense, indignantly shouting that Wei Wei is pure and innocent. Nothing like those little minxes. Cease this slander at once. As for Mei Honshui, he thought this woman rather odd. She could probably give his brother a run for his money in a competition to see who was more of a flirt. Shui Meng had no clue what she was really like. He was not the sort to listen to rumors. He hadn't always been so opposed to gossip, but after hearing countless rumors and speculation about Chu Wanning and Mo Run after they'd gone into seclusion, he'd grown fed up and banned that kind of talk on Xishang Peak. Hua Ruo's reliance on her womanly wiles to manipulate men around her was therefore something to which Shui Meng was completely oblivious. When Mei Honshui had come to deliver the snow lotuses, he had been greeted by the sight of Hua Ruo wheedling and cozying up to sect leader Shui. Zemingaga, you're so clever. Everyone adores you. Zemingaga, can I touch your armor? It's so shiny. Zemingaga, everyone thinks you're just the best. Imagine being the leader of the entire lower cultivation realm at such a young age. You must find it so tiring, right? Though Shui Meng did find her manner a bit cloying, gilded bullshit might not have been gold, but it still glittered. Partial to flattery as he was, he preened and chuckled foolishly at Hua Ruo's syrupy praise. Mei Honshui could hardly stand to watch. Shui Meng really was bird-brained. He slammed the box containing the snow lotuses down onto the table, the sound making Hua Ruo jump. The young beauty quickly gathered herself. She patted her bounteous chest and turned wide, guileless eyes on Mei Honshui. Oh my, Honshui Gaga, your hands are so big and strong, my little heart's pounding. Who's your Gaga? Mei Honshui responded, coolly mocking. I don't remember having any sisters. Hua Ruo had never expected to be snubbed like this. She managed to stutter. I was just being nice. Loosen up. I believe you're loose enough for us both. Cool. Hua Ruo sputtered. All right, that's enough. Unable to keep watching, Shui Meng cut in. Hua Zhengmin is a guest here. She was just telling me that after everything settled down, she had a chance to think things over and felt that Jiangdong Hall had erred. She's come to Xishang Peak to make amends. Isn't that right, Miss Hua? Hua Ruo had handled Shui Meng with finesse earlier, but Mei Honshui's cool gaze seemed to pierce right through her, leaving her unsettled. She shrank in on herself and mustered a weak laugh. That's right. Shui Zhengmen is the sect leader I most admire. I'm so in awe. Mei Honshui sneered. That's the same thing you said to Jiang Shi the last time you went to Guya. Nonsense. Hua Ruo blanched. After which he tried to grope Jiang Yichen. He is reading her to filth. for hitting on Shui Meng. Hua Ruo's mouth snapped shut. What? Shui Meng yelped. Last month, Hua Zhengmen here used the exact same line to seduce Gu Wei as Jiang Zhengmen, then tried feeling up Jiang Zhengmen's thigh. Mei Hanshui's face was expressionless. Zhang Yichen flew into a rage and had her tossed out of Guya. Later, he sent someone to Jiangdong Hall to deliver a prescription for birth control pills. Damn! Ooh. Shui Meng stared. It was the talk of the town in Yangzhou. I was there 2 days ago running some errands. Mei Hanshui had no qualms about being rude to women. Clearly. He glanced at Hua Ruo and said dispassionately, Hua Zhengmen, do you admire Shui Ziming or Zhang Yichen the most? Or does the honor of that title go to whomever pays you a scrap of attention? The gay savagery. To shreds, you say. She's... Whoa. Huaroi had never expected that despite sharing a name with his charming brother, this older twin would be so much harsher, with no regard whatsoever for a lady's dignity. Face red and clinging to her last shred of hope, she whined plaintively, Hanshuigaka, those are just rumors. Look at me. Do I look like I would lie? Mei Hanshui turned and studied her. Perking up, Huaroi met his gaze with her best flirtatious glance. Stop blinking. Mei Hanshui was wholly unmoved. Stop blinking. Mei Hanshui was wholly unmoved. I can't get it up, especially not for you. Huaroi stopped, fluttering her eyelashes. Mei Hanshui was so tactless, nothing like his brother. There was no way she was going to stick around just to be snubbed. She stormed off, wiping her tears, her normally pretty face so flushed and contorted with anger it looked like a pig's liver. Mei Hanshui was hardly feeling charitable toward Shui Meng, who had watched all this in stunned silence, either. He pointed at the wooden box with one slender finger. You need these. Shui Meng, still gawping foolishly, slid his gaze to the box of snow lotuses and said blankly, Thank you. No need for thanks. Mei Hanshui's jade-green eyes held traces of mockery and displeasure as his pale, thin lips parted around his next words. Eat them. It's good for your brain. It was a long, confused moment before Shui Meng registered the insult. By that time, Mei Hanshui was well on his way out, and all Shui Meng could do was yell at his back, You're mocking me! Mei Hanshui was much more decorous than his little brother. Now that Shui Meng was a sect leader, he normally addressed him with all due respect. That day, Shui Meng hadn't understood what had gotten into him. Not only did he ridicule him, after speaking those harsh words, he simply left, reflecting on their acrimonious parting. Shui Meng felt like the version of himself from the other world must have been bewitched to have been so inseparable from those Mei twin weirdos. To him, even one day in their company was too much. Since then, Mei Hanshui had paid no more visits to Xisheng Peak, and Shui Meng had assumed that would be the last he ever saw of him. To hear that he was here today, and requesting to see Shui Meng with such urgency, was unexpected to say the least. Has he come to supplement my brain again? Pardon? Xuanji blinked. He reminded himself that he was a sect leader, while Mei Hanshui had yet to inherit Ming Yulo's mantle and was still only a Dashishong. Shui Meng technically outranked him, and it would be beneath him to quibble with a junior. He cleared his throat. Forget it. What's he here for? Supposedly, it's got something to do with something going on at Taobao Estate. Huh? Shui Meng's eyes widened. He shot a glance at Taobao Estate's Miss S, his brow furrowing. What happened? Miss Shunjun didn't say, but he mentioned his brother was caught up in it. Mei Hanshui's eyebrows shot up. Xuanji, not noticing the change in her expression, continued hesitantly. And yourself? Shui Meng blinked. The Mei twins were not any common visitors. Instead of being left to wait in Loyalty Hall's outer room, Mei Hanshui had been shown directly to the open-air corridors in the garden beyond the back hall. When Shui Meng arrived, Mei Hanshui was seated next to a pillar, head raised to contemplate the newly planted Hai-Tung tree in the courtyard. He wore Kunlun Tashui Palace's simple and elegant snow silk robes, embroidered only at the cuffs of his sleeves and hems at his feet in pale blue thread. On another, such colors might have left the wearer looking pallid and washed out. Perhaps it was the dazzling luster of his soft blonde hair that made the difference. On Mei Hanshui, the effect was that of a glacier at rest, cold and aloof. Yet beneath layers of ice and snow lay a silently roiling, lava-like heat, one that threatened at any moment to erupt and scald any who came too close. Stand back, we're gonna get something on us. Hoping to get over the awkwardness as quickly as possible, Shui Meng cleared his throat. Mei Hanshui turned at the sound. Shui Meng cleared his throat a second time. A gruff hello. A third time. He was willing to let bygones be bygones. A fourth. Mei Hanshui's jade-green gaze slid over him, and he broke in with an indifferent, "Are you a rooster practicing your crowing?" Shui Meng fell silent. A rather unique sound. He hadn't expected Mei Hanshui to completely miss the profound meanings behind his 4 throat clearings, much less mock him for it. His eyes went wide as he yelped, "Mei Hanshui, you..." Forget it. Mei Hanshui got to his feet. Light refracted off the gem upon his forehead with each of his movements. "Do you know just how much trouble you've caused?" Shui Meng was a good kid, who'd grown up as both a mama's boy and teacher's pet. Rarely had this kind of scolding been directed at him. Out of everyone at Xishang Peak, by far the most likely to receive such censure was Mo Troublemaker Run. Mo Nuisance Wei Yu. Mei Hanshui's tone sent anxiety rushing through him, and he swiftly asked, What did I do?" "Did you or did you not use the pseudonym Taobao Estate ruined my life to leave hundreds of bad reviews on the matching scroll?" "What about it?" Shui Meng huffed, hands on his hips. "Don't tell me Ma Fengzhe was so distraught over those reviews he went and drowned himself in Westlake." Mei Hanshui gave him a cool look. Under that gaze, Shui Meng couldn't help feeling a twinge of guilt. Wait, no way, he didn't actually drown himself. Mei Hanshui didn't bother to hide the way his gaze flicked down to Shui Meng's waist, eyeing his defiant hands-on-hips pose with an unsettling intensity. His next words came bluntly. "As sect leader, you should pay more attention to your comportment and bearing. It's not appropriate to act like an unmannerly fishwife." Shui Meng sputtered, then exploded. "Excuse you, Mei Hanshui. I'm a sect leader, aren't I? How dare you speak to me like that?" Mei Hanshui's gaze swept over him once more. "There's nobody else around, so I'll be direct." We're going to get a running start into this. "There's nobody else around, so I'll be direct. If you can't take it, then keep standing there with your hands on your hips. I don't mind. You can stand there all day, and when it comes to mealtime, you may stay in that pose. Just don't forget to have a disciple feed you." "You..." Shui Meng was so mad he felt like he was going to pass out. Between Mei Hanshui and Mei Hanshui, he didn't know who was worse. I think we'll find out by the end of this. Mei Hanshui's teasing was constant, and his nonchalant, careless, carefree shamelessness often made Shui Meng blush just watching him. Mei Hanshui was different. Before others, Mei Hanshui accorded Shui Meng the respect due a sect leader, but the moment they were alone, or the moment he was in a bad mood, his words became even more enraging than his younger brother's. On top of that, Mei Hanshui rarely showed himself in public, preferring not to get tangled up in the cultivation world's affairs. When he did, it was with that pretentious attitude. As such, his reputation in the cultivation realm was excellent, and no matter how Shui Meng threw a fit and tried to tell everyone the truth about Mei Hanshui's shitty personality, all he got were pitying stares and advice like, "Hiya, sect leader, you need to take a break and relax. Drink more silver tree or fungus and lotus seed soup. It's good for cooling hot tempers down." It was unbearable. Mei Hanshui bullied him right to his face, yet nobody would believe him. He'd once told Shui Meng that his face was swollen in a truly unique manner, called him the biggest fool to ever fool, told him he needed supplements for his brain, implied he needed someone to feed him, and all this time Shui Meng had no choice but to suffer in wretched silence. In all seriousness, Mei Hanshui's voice cut through his angry fugue. "It was those negative reviews you left that caused all the trouble." He paused, fine golden brows crinkling, then added, "That and my brother." "You'd better tell me what happened." Simply put, the matching scroll cultivated into a sentient spirit. Simply put. What? Thanks to you and my brother. What form did it cultivate into? Simply put, a human. It cultivated into a human form? Yes. Shui Meng was spirited and impulsive by nature. He couldn't take Mei Hanshui's drip-fed information. He was so agitated he couldn't help but blurt, "Well, go on then, what happened?" Simply put, enough with the simply put already. Shui Meng was about to blow his top. "Put it complicatedly. Explain in detail." "Thank you, Shui Meng." "Very well." Mei Hanshui swept a cool glance over him. "Complicated it is. When Ma Fengzhou was refining that scroll, he placed a rare piece of sentient stone within it, which allowed it to mimic human behavior. As a mere stone, one or two interactions wouldn't have given it much to learn from. But then Hanshui went and bought a scroll." "And then what?" "He used his matching scroll to create 100 different accounts and used those 100 accounts to chat with 500 ladies. Rinse and repeat, and over time, these interactions taught the matching scroll's gestalt all it needed to know." Shui Meng was speechless. That Mei Hanshui. At his stunned expression, Mei Hanshui's brows lifted. "Don't think all the flame..." I can't function at the moment, pardon me. "Don't think all the blame falls to my brother. Things probably wouldn't have gotten to this point if it were just Hong Shui's shenanigans. But then you had to pick this time to write 100 negative reviews of the matching scroll. Your scathing criticism cut deeply into its nascent sense of self, and it had a nervous breakdown." They're teaming up without even realizing it. "It had a what?" "There's more," Mei Hanshui continued dispassionately. "During its breakdown, the matching scroll's mind absorbed the personalities of its users and took on characteristics of both you and Hanshui. Not long ago, it broke free of Ma Fengzhou's control entirely and with the help of a bolt of lightning attained a male human form. In addition to wielding considerable power, it suffers from two major afflictions. What are those? The first, extreme philandering. Uh-huh. Mei Hunshui's influence indeed. Shuimeng nodded. And what's the second? Mei Hunshui didn't answer immediately, golden lashes lowering as he gave Shuimeng another once-over. His pale lips parted, then pressed tight. At last, he said pointedly, the second, extreme narcissism. It's true, the oblivious Shuimeng nodded solemnly. Mei Hunshui is quite narcissistic. Mei Hunshui had no words. Even though I gave it 100 negative reviews, it seems like it didn't actually pick up anything from me. Shuimeng sighed. So what's next? Maya can't recapture this spirit on his own? Before Mei Hunshui could reply, a faint rustling came from behind the rock formation in the garden. He turned. Who's there? After a moment, the comely Miss S emerged from the bushes, a shriveled leaf stuck in her pale hair. She seemed unable to meet Mei Hunshui's gaze and waved at Shuimeng as she explained, Sect leader, I was just passing by. I'll be on my way. Stop right there. Mei Hunshui's grim voice froze her in her tracks before she could take even 2 mincing steps away. This is my guest, Taobao Estate's Smile Squad disciple, Miss S. Shuimeng frowned. No need to be so snippy. She's nice enough. Mei Hunshui's eyes narrowed. She. Yeah. Taobao Estate. Uh-huh. Smile Squad. Exactly. Frost seemed to crackle over Mei Hunshui's face as he descended the steps and came to Miss S's side. Mei Hunshui. Shuimeng looked between the two of them, confused. Playing games with him again. Shuimeng almost fell over in shock. That's the end of the chapter. Either either someone's gonna tell me that actually the description says be read through chapter 15, or or Tuxedo is very mean. This is so cruel. Yeah, Henry, thanks for confirming. No, it's just 14. I hang on. God, I don't think Tuxedo's here. So I don't know what breaking the rules would do. Because Tuxedo has put thought into breaking up the chapters for me, as both a very nice gesture and, as you can tell, a very mean gesture. And so I don't know what reading chapter 15 would do, but it's a little under 10 pages, and it's only 5:04, and we can go to 5:30. So, I don't want to mess up Tuxedo's arrangement, so I'm going to restrain myself. Barely. That is, when we come back on Tuesday, When we come back on Tuesday, we'll be on page 155 for chapter 15. I have book chats. Gaywatch has book chats on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to discuss what we read in the previous reading stream. So on Tuesday, we will be discussing what we read today for YouTube members and patrons. I am going to go burst into flames, and I will see you on Tuesday. It's like I've never ended a stream in my entire life. I will see you on Tuesday. Thank you for watching this stream. I hope you had a great time. I'm having too many things happening at me all at once. So, please have a lovely weekend. I love you very, very much. Remember to take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on Tuesday.